right, we're going to try this again. So if you see me on Facebook and you are trying to join in through Zoom, I believe you're going to have to enter a password, and that password is 1660. So try that and see if anybody can hop on. All right, there you are. Got Dawn, maybe. There's somebody. Okay.
Eating lunch still.
That's okay. Let's see if anybody else hops on.
So did you put it back out there with a password now?
I need to probably share the password on there. Let's see if I can find the live stream. Lena was trying to get on, I think. She couldn't either. Okay, Brandon is going to post the password in the live stream video.
Okay.
So if you're joining us on Facebook, click that Zoom link and hop into our Zoom meeting so you can chat with us about sports psychology. I think there's probably a couple more people trying to get in, so I'll give them a minute or two. And I need to figure out how to let people come in on their own. There we go. Okay.
And mute and unmute. I don't know where mine is.
Just don't chew too loudly and you'll be okay.
I have chips. What am I gonna do?
What are you eating? Chips?
And a burrito.
Ooh.
It was Taco Tuesday last night.
I can mute you if I have to.
Yeah.
If you're good, I won't have to mute you.
Oh, here we go. I found it. Okay.
All right, one more time. If anybody's watching on Facebook, join us in the Zoom link so you can come in and chat with us. I will not be answering questions on Facebook. So if you have a question or want to talk, you have to come in to our Zoom meeting. Last week we had some awesome participation, so please jump in and join us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can you guys see that? Hold on. Can you see that now? The PowerPoint? Okay. So today we're going to continue our discussion on sports psychology. And this week we're going to focus on positive thinking. Potentially the simplest part of sports psychology, but maybe one of the most difficult things for people to actually overcome because we typically, as human beings, have a negative mindset or tend to think negatively, at least towards ourselves. And that's a hard thing to overcome. So that's a big part of sports psychology. A little recap. What is sports psychology? I want to move these things. There we go. Okay. These are the same things we talked about the last couple of weeks. So sports psychology, a simple way to think about it is how athletes can train their mind as well as their bodies in order to stay calm and focused for competition. Right now, since we're all stuck at home, a lot of us aren't able to train our physical skills, but this is something that we can be doing during this quarantine and training our mind. A lot of people don't realize that we actually have to learn skills to reduce stress, stay calm, and boost confidence. These are not things that necessarily just come easy to us. We have to learn these skills and practice them. And so that's something that we can be doing while we're all sitting at home. Sports psychology can help us overcome setbacks and overcome mistakes. And then another part of sports psychology is enhancing the social aspects of sports, so connecting with others and giving positive feedback, things like that. This is where teammates and coaches come into play, and also maybe your family members if they help you out with your sport. Okay, so those of you guys who have been on with me in the past, does anybody have any examples of how they've used the skills we've talked about? So the first week we kind of just did an overview of sports psychology, and then last week we talked about awareness and talked about maybe journal keeping or setting goals to become aware of the things you need to work on, or our strengths and weaknesses. Has anybody out there actually practiced using any of those things this week? Don't forget to unmute yourself if you're talking. Nobody? Oh,
We had talked earlier about how I was trying to keep a more positive mindset about things. And so I think just in that, like, not really a journaler, but I'm thinking through before, like, I'm thinking through what just happened or what was said or whatever before I actually like get negative about it or whatever.
good. And that's like the whole point of awareness. Journal keeping is just a simple way to become aware of that, but you don't have to actually write things down to be journal keeping. Just thinking about it before you do something is awareness. So that's good. That's a good example. Okay. So again, this is a repeat. Inside the mind of a champion. So these are kind of the characteristics that I came up with that might be important for our mental game. So motivation obviously is one, confidence is one, anxiety management is one, and then positivity is what we're going to focus on today. And these are all things that those athletes that have really good mental skills, they all have these characteristics. And then they're also really good at setting routines. I think for positivity, we all have good days and bad days. And obviously we can probably all agree that it's much easier to keep a positive attitude on the good days, right? So the difference in between the really great athletes and then the just good athletes is maybe their ability to turn their attitude from negative to positive. And like I said earlier, this is a skill we have to learn and practice. It doesn't always just come naturally to us. So I have a little video here. I hope it'll let me play it. Maybe. Nope, hold on.
I don't think we're hearing sound.
Hold on. No sound. Whoops. Now my computer's just going crazy. Okay, hold on. We'll try again. Can you hear it now? I feel like you should be able to hear it since I can hear it. You can't hear my computer? Okay, well, I'll tell you what it says. So basically, what he's saying is that they did a study on the top 5 tennis players in the world. Here, I need to go back to my last slide because that's where my notes are. The top 5 tennis players in the world and the top 25 tennis players in the world. And so obviously those are, I mean, the top 25 tennis players in the world are all really good tennis players, right? But what differentiates those top 5 from the rest of those top players? It wasn't diet, it wasn't exercise, it wasn't how long they've played or their coaching. It was those athletes, after they had positive thoughts, they actually had a slowed down heart rate, a slowed down breathing rate, and they conserved energy throughout their game. They obviously had a boost in confidence, and then this caused them to be more successful. So basically what he's saying is that the positivity actually is what kind of differentiates those really, really, really great athletes from the great athletes. So it's actually kind of cool also to think that positive thinking, the way our mind works, can actually create a physical response. So like I said a second ago, he found that those athletes that had just had positive thoughts, it actually decreased their heart rate and which allows you to focus better, and it slowed their breathing down. So that conserves energy. They had more energy to put forth into their actual execution of their game. So while the mental state and the positive attitude is really, really important, it actually also in turn relates to physical responses. So here again, how does positive thinking improve performance? It creates an increased self-confidence, lower anxiety, decreased heart rate, decreased breathing rate. All of these things come together with help with the conservation of energy, and all of those things together can help with improved skill execution. So, have you ever talked with someone with a negative attitude, and how did it make you feel?
It's frustrating.
Frustration, good.
With their negative attitude, makes it feel like I can't do anything to help them.
Okay. So they kind of made you have I mean, that was a negative thought right there. I can't help them.
Right.
They
Yeah.
gave
It makes
you negative thinking, right? It passed
puts
it
it right-
on. So basically that's kind of the point I was trying to get across, is that when someone talks negatively to you, their feelings affect you and the chain keeps getting longer and longer. One bad interaction can result in with many people with negative outlooks. So this applies to sports, especially team sports, right? One person on the court with a negative attitude is going to affect the whole team. So I got my little negativity ball up here. Imagine somebody passes you this ball of negativity and you have a choice to make. You can either pass it off to somebody else and then have the negativity on them. So the opponent is the negativity and they're on them now. The opponent is following them around, that ball around, and they're negative on that person. Or you can use it to score a point and turn things around. So this is kind of where our mental skills come in handy. You have to choose to turn that thought around, that negative thought or that negative ball, and choose. You had two courses of actions. You could either pass the negativity on, keep it around, or you could shoot it and make it a good thing, right? Okay, well, attempt to play this video, but I don't know if it's going to work. The sound didn't work earlier, so just tell me if it doesn't. I'll have to figure out how this video thing works. Let me see if I... Whoops, that was my fault. Could you hear it? Still no? Okay. Well, then we'll just go on to the next one. This video is posted on the North Area Special Olympics page, so you can go watch it there if you would like to. I can also probably post a link in our comments, so if you want to go watch, you can do that. But Jess, do you want to share what the video talks about?
Sure. So the video basically is this woman is blindfolded and she's taking shots, and the group of spectators that are watching are all cheering and like they're going crazy. So it's making her think that she's making every shot. However, like the 10 shots that she made before she was blindfolded, she only made like 3 or something of the 10. And then when she was blindfolded, I don't know that she made any, but they were cheering on so much that when she went to do her next 10, not blindfolded, she went on to make about 7 of the 10 shots. And so the positive energy that the spectators had a massive role on how she shot. And then after she's finished, they bring a guy in that's really good at basketball. And he actually had made 9 of the 10 shots, I believe, his first go around, and he wasn't blindfolded the second time, but everybody was booing him and just like being very negative toward him. And he ended up missing the majority of his next 10 shots because the negative energy came back onto him and he wasn't able to, he didn't have that positive thinking that he's like good and making it anymore. It's pretty interesting.
Good. So yeah, exactly. Like the first girl, not a basketball player, doesn't have the skill really, but just the simple positive affirmations and thoughts that she thought she actually made those shots improved her skill. So just a good example of how positivity can actually make a difference. So some positive thinking skills that we can work on or learn. Thought stoppage. So a lot of these kind of run together and can be used all at the same time. But thought stoppage is just a really simple, like you can just choose a cue word. So as soon as you feel a negative thought popping into your head, or as soon as something bad happens, you have to be prepared with this cue word. So a lot of people just use the word stop. They just say stop. Or they can, if you don't like using words, if you're more of a picture person, you can just picture a stop sign. Sometimes people they hear like a whistle that cues them to stop that thought. So the first thing to do is just thought stoppage, and that's just whatever word you want to do. Can you guys think of another word that you might use? Those are the simple ones, the typical ones. Also, another thing is if this is new to you, sorry, I went too fast. You can ask somebody to help you with this. So if you have a coach that wants to help you get over your negativity and help you with your self-talk, tell them what your cue word is, and they can say it to you if they see you getting negative. Everybody might have a different cue word, and that's okay. Those are just my examples. So share that with your teammates or your coaches, or write it down, put it on your hand. If you have like a bracelet you like to wear that you can have it on, or something like that. Just something that can remind you to stop that negative thought. So then also reframing is the next skill. And this is turning the negative into a positive. So this is one that you really kind of have to work on. We're going to practice reframing in a second. But the first thing you have to do is stop that thought and then be able to turn the negative into something positive. A way that you can help do this at the beginning is maybe keep a record of your negative thoughts. So we talked about journaling last week and being aware of what we're doing or saying in our head. So if you have like a thought that comes through your head often, write it down, tell a coach, tell a friend, whatever you want to do, record that thought. So you know that that's something you're trying to get rid of. And then we can work to reframe it and make it positive. Does anybody have a negative thought that comes through their mind when they practice or play sports?
Yeah. Like when you're playing and you're like, you miss it. I mean, one of the first things you want to be is like, oh, I suck.
Yeah. Okay, I suck. That's a good one. So then we have to, how do you reframe that? Like, it's hard. It's hard to think about.
Well, like, oh, I missed it. Okay, next time, you know. And then I try to, what can I do better? Okay, think about it.
Think about, we all know Patrick Mahomes, right? What would happen if Patrick Mahomes told himself he sucked every single game? Because usually the first quarter or first half of that game, he wasn't doing so hot, or his team wasn't doing so hot. What would have happened if he just said that and never turned? Because he's a come from behind guy. You know, I mean, if he never had a positive attitude or could come over that, the Chiefs wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. So it's important to be able to learn how to turn those things around. And just because you suck right then doesn't mean you can't come back from it. So having those thoughts and positive reframing is a good thing to have on hand. So that's why we practice them. That way, when you come to that situation in the game, you don't have to like figure out how to reframe that thought. You've already figured it out and you just say it to yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. So affirmations are obviously a simple, easy way that you can get some positive thinking. So this involves your teammates, your coaches, your family. If you're aware that positive thinking is something that you need to work on, tell people and ask them to help you, and they might have tips for you. It's a lot easier to tell somebody else good things than it is to tell yourself good things, right? Sometimes. So that can be helpful. And then a positive mantra. Does anybody know what this is or have one?
I mean, I think that I didn't have like I guess, statement toward myself, but I actually wrote just the Bible verse that I always thought of on my softball glove in high school and college. And I actually still have that same glove, and you could tell that I've like rewritten over the years where it's faded out, but that's what I always had for whenever I did like miss a ball or like miss a routine ball at that. And I would get pretty negative and upset with myself, and I would read just like the name of the Bible verse on my glove, and I was able to kind of like recoup.
Yeah, so I've kind of found that mantras can kind of do a few different things. Obviously, they're just a positive thing to make you feel better. But I think that they're good in distracting you sometimes from the bad. And then also calming you down a little bit. So I'm guessing like when you stepped back and read whatever was on your glove, it made you like kind of calm down and focus again, right? So all of those things are super important. And all that came from just a simple statement, something that makes you feel good. And it can be anything you want to. When I was thinking about this, I realized that I had a positive mantra that I used and didn't really even know that's what it was in high school. So I ran the 400, which is, I think, the hardest race that you can run because it's fast, but it's also long. And once you get to like the 800, you can kind of like pace yourself and go slower. But like the 400 is a full out sprint, the whole track, and it's fast and you're running against really fast people and it's long. And somehow I got put in that race as a 4x4, and I was an anchor. And I remember getting around to that third curve, and every single time I would just say to myself, go, go, go. Because like that's all you can do. And like that calmed me down, and it made me forget about like the pain I was feeling for the last part of that race. And so go, go, go is kind of like my mantra when I ran track. So it could be something as simple as that. It can be more complex like what Jess had. But anything positive, short statements that you can say to yourself that just make you feel better and can help performance. Okay, so we're going to practice a little bit. So the way we can try to work on reframing our thoughts is first we have to pay attention to our thoughts. So just like last week, we're building on what we did last week was becoming aware of what we're saying to ourselves. That's what that is. Stopping our thoughts, whatever keyword you have or visualization, you can visualize a stop sign to make yourself stop the thought, the negative thought. And then think about a good way to help you reframe the situation. Like I talked about, it's easier to help somebody else sometimes than it is to help yourself. So think about if a friend came to you and was in the same situation as you, what would you say to them? And that can maybe help you try to reframe the thought. And then we identify and reframe the thought. And then it's important when we're doing this to make sure that our new thought is realistic. So we're not just reframing this and making something up that doesn't make any sense. And some situations are actually bad, and we're not going to turn them into something good because they're not. But we have to find the good in the situation. So an example of this is like, I'm riding my bike and I got a flat tire. I'm not going to say, oh man, I'm so glad I got a flat tire, because I'm not. But I might say, at least now I have a chance to rest before I keep on going. So there you go. We're not trying to tell you that all these situations have to be good, because they're not. But it's about finding the good in the situation and learning how to bring that out and to improve our performance. So now we're going to practice. I have some examples I'm going to put up here, and I want you guys to help me try to reframe this. So it's raining today, and it's so hard to run fast in the rain. How would you maybe reframe that? Since both of you guys are not currently athletes, how would you reframe it for one of your athletes that you coach? It's kind of a hard one.
That's really hard because, I mean, at least you've got, it's probably a little cooler because it'll make you feel a little better.
There you go. That's good. I sometimes when I see this one, I think like we're all running in the same rain. It's not like there's a rain cloud over me. Like I might not run my fastest time, but I can run just as well as the person next to me in the same rain. And maybe I've trained in the rain and that person hasn't. So I might still do better than them.
Right.
So there's different ways you can go about reframing the thoughts. I stole this one from Lena because she said it in one of our first sessions. That guy on the other team is so tall, I definitely can't shoot over him.
I feel like this is one where you could even take it as far as like, well, since you are shorter than him, like you can go under him and shoot.
That's what Lena said. She told herself in
Yeah.
that situation. You can go around him, you're faster, you might be able to go under him. That would be maybe really weird. He'd have to be pretty tall for you to go under him, but you could pass the ball under him maybe.
Well,
so yeah, that's a good
like
one.
Arms. You can go under their arms.
There you go.
I did that in high school a little bit. I was short, so.
Me too.
Dawn, you're not short. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, the computer adds 2 feet to me.
See, positive thinking. Good job. Okay, last one, and this is my Patrick Mahomes one. It's halftime and we're down by 6 points. There's no way we can win. This one's kind of difficult to reframe.
It's only halftime. We still have
There
a
you
whole
go.
half. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, we have a whole half, just like
Or like, imagine what happens if we're down by 6 and we come back. I mean, it's going to be even better because we came back from a behind thing. Yeah.
right.
Obviously and you can also use examples like to think to yourself, the Chiefs come back every single game. They can do it. I can do it too. Okay. All right. So a little bit about creating your positive mantra. Some tips for this is to keep it short, keep it positive, keep it energized, keep it actionable. So this means making sure that it's what you plan to do. Also, when you're keeping it positive, you want to make sure you're only using positive words. So this means not using the word don't or not. So basically tell yourself what you want to do, not what you don't want to do. So gotta think of an example of that. This is something we teach our kids when you talk to your kids. You don't want to tell them what not to do because then all you can think about is the thing that they said not to do. So you want to tell them what to do. So like when I'm talking to my 2-year-old, I don't say, Declan, don't touch that. I say, Declan, why don't you go find something else to play with that is more meaningful or something like that. So I'm telling him what to do instead of what not to do. So that make sure when you're creating your mantra, you're keeping it positive and that you're not using those negative words. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to say, I don't want to mess up. Like, yeah, don't mess up. Don't mess up. That's not positive.
Exactly. Yep. You might think it's positive because you're telling yourself not to do the bad thing, but you're actually making yourself think about the bad thing in the same words. So, and then keep it at the forefront of your mind. So I thought about this when I was creating this page. I was trying to think of some examples of mantras. And so like mine was go, go, go. And I was like looking up some different mantras on online, and I figured out that we have several TV characters that have mantras. Can you think of any TV characters that have mantras? And mine are like little children's TV characters. So it's very simple if you can think of them. So like Thomas the Train, what's his mantra? Come on.
I don't have kids, so.
And the only train one I can think of is I think I can.
That's him. Isn't that Thomas the Train?
You know what? That's been around since before Thomas, but he's a train and he thinks.
Okay, well, that's what I put as my example. And then what's Bob the Builder's mantra?
Yes, we can.
Can we fix it? Yes, we can.
Yeah. Yep.
So there, everybody has mantras, not just for sport, but for daily life. But yes, they can help you out in sport as well. All right, so just my little think positive picture here. And then we're going to review our tips for using these psychological skills. So again, these psychological skills are real skills, just like your physical skills that you have to learn and practice and become aware of. You don't go to basketball practice just to sit around and do nothing. You practice your shooting or your dribbling, anything like rebounding, things like that. So you're going to practice your psychological skills the same way. You might want to spend some time at the beginning of practice doing this. Ask your coach if you can have 10 minutes at the beginning or end of practice to practice your skills. If that means writing down your thoughts that you're going to work on that day. So maybe I've been finding myself saying to myself that I can't make these baskets. So at the beginning of practice, I'm going to say, Coach, I'm going to sit down and write down some of these negative thoughts. I'm going to reframe them. And that way I have them in my head for practice and I can practice saying them, the positive thoughts to myself during practice. And then you want to make sure you're doing that same thing before competition. So how you practice it should be exactly how you use it in competition as well. Does that make sense? Okay, so these are our topics that we talked about. We've talked about awareness. I think Trish is covering, letting her cover goal setting for me in her sessions. Today we did self-talk and positivity. And so next week, I think we're going to talk a little bit about stress relief, which is going to include some breathing and imagery and visualization. So I decided I'm going to give everybody some homework this week. So I want you guys all to go out and use some of these skills this week. So if that means journaling, writing down your strengths and weaknesses, whatever you want to talk about, or positive self-talk skills we talked about today was creating a mantra. So everybody can create their mantra and bring it back next week for us. Or just maybe writing down some of your negative thoughts and then reframing them and telling us how you did that. But I want some good examples next week when we start our session. You guys are actually taking notes like I'm a real teacher. I think you're taking notes, at least you're pretending to. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us. And we'll be back again next week at 1.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Thanks.